What's up, my dudes? They don't want me to start figuring MX bikes out, boy. Oh, I'm telling you, dog. We're making big strides now. Oh, man. Kind of on accident, too. It's kind of funny how it works. But, so, this is a interesting little dynamic to MX bikes. To some of you that don't know about this, there's actually two different first-person cameras. It can be a little bit confusing at first, and just to let you know, this is not my first time trying out this second first-person camera, okay? I've done this before, but that was also before I realized how to raise my field of view up higher than you can have it inside of the game settings, right? By going into the files of the game and raising it up to, higher than 110. That in combination with this second first-person camera gives you quite the interesting little feeling on MX bikes. There is so much more of a forward and backwards sort of feeling, right? There's so much more of a front end, especially when you're trying to really lean it down, like a Supercross rhythm section jump face, like you're really trying to get up and down each one of the, jumps in the rhythm. It just gives you so much more, visual feeling, if that makes any sense, of the front end of the bike when you're doing that, right? And I think that it's just so weird how you see things with MX bikes and how you perceive things with certain camera options can totally change the way that you can ride the bike, right? That's a really crazy thing about it. But yeah, man, this second first-person camera, it's pretty sick, dude. I'm not even gonna lie. It's pretty damn sick. And it reminds me a lot of, it's really akin to if you've seen any of those pro dudes riding those 125s on GoPro helmet cam videos on YouTube. If you've ever seen any of those, I think Ryan Surratt did one. There's been a couple other guys that's done some videos like that, but in those particular GoPro videos, you can really see them like hucking the front fender, right? You can really see them pulling up on the front fender and kind of hucking it up to the side a little bit, right? You really get that pull up on the front end, and that's what it really reminds me of, what this second first-person camera kind of, the visual effect that it creates for MX bikes is that real, pushing the front end down and then pulling it up, really yanking, it's got more of a yanking the front end up feeling, and really more of that turn-uppy style whip. Seems like that's way easier to do with the second first-person camera of MX bikes. I don't know if any of you guys have noticed that, but specifically turn-up whips become almost not even a challenge whenever you're using this second first-person camera, but yeah, it just gives you more feeling, more of a visual look to what you're doing with the front end. Therefore, you can be a little more precise with it, specifically on Supercross tracks. Now, the cornering in the second first-person camera can be a little bit different than the first-person camera for sure, but I think of all things, that second first-person camera really helps you more in the leaning forward and backwards and trying to really place your front end up and down exactly where you want it when you're going through a Supercross rhythm section. That seems to be where it's having the most benefit. But yeah, there's just certain little things I'm doing on some tracks with this second first-person camera that I just straight up wasn't doing on the first-person camera. Don't get confused here. First, second, third, second first-person camera. I know it gets a little insane, but keep up with me here, okay? There's certain little things it's hard to explain it, but with the second first-person camera, you get that little bit more of a feeling when you're trying to hit a jump, but then also angle the bike to hit the next corner. You can kind of do that where you jump, turn your front end one way, and then turn it back to then corner, kind of like not really a turn up, but kind of turning the oppo way and then coming right back and then turning in the corner. It makes that in particular feel a little bit more natural to me personally when I'm using the second first-person camera. I'm really confused at why Poboso doesn't automatically have at least 115, 120 field of view or higher by default, and then the second first-person camera really should be the default first-person camera. I mean, at least that's the way I feel with it. You can definitely let me know down in the comments if you guys agree with that or not, but I just don't understand why it's like you gotta go through all these hurdles, it seems like, with MX bikes to even get the camera to look like I personally feel like it should look for you to be able to get the full effect out of the bike. You know what I mean? Of course, there's some people that have different camera settings. I'm not saying you can't be fast with a different camera setting. I'm just saying by default, it just seems to make the game so much easier for me with those super high field of views. I say super high. It's only really super high when you compare it to the highest that you can have in the game, which I think is 110, but going higher than that, I don't understand why that's not just the default, because it just makes it easier for a beginner player getting into the game. The roughness is not going to feel as rough. You can see so much more. You can, your reaction, you can react to everything the bike's doing so much easier when you have those really high field of views and the second first-person camera. I really feel like when Poboso gets to that point where they want to actually fully release MX bikes, that's what they should have as default camera settings, right? When you first get into the game, it's fucking like, it's default field of view on 115 or 120, and then it's default to currently the second first-person camera versus defaulting to that first-person camera, right? It's kind of known in the MX bikes community. You have a first-person camera and a second first-person camera, but then you can also go in there and change your field of view, pitch, and angle. But as far as the two different first-person cameras, they're just, I feel like the second first-person camera is a little bit more of a GoPro-esque view, whereas the first-person camera is a little bit more of a, like standardized, I guess you could call it, kind of view. I don't really know how to explain it, but I'm just telling you, dude, when you go to this second first-person camera with that super high field of view, in combination, if you have a low field of view, like, let's say you're still using the field of view settings that are just in the game by default, like 110 or lower, and then you're using the second first-person camera, I don't know if you're going to enjoy it as much as if you have a higher than 110 field of view and then you use the second first-person camera in combination with that. Then you really start getting that full effect, right? Because then you can see more to where it allows you to corner better with that second first-person camera. You can see more to allow you to lean, kind of lean the bike down, forward and backwards. You can see so much more. It's hard to explain it, man, but I feel like that's kind of how you get the full, what you call GoPro effect on MX bikes is 115 or higher field of view, and then the second first-person camera, that is the majority of the gameplay of the faster dudes that I've seen on YouTube. That's what they're running. Not all of them. Okay, I have to clarify from these fucking pro fanboys out here, but it's that the majority of what I've seen is that higher field of view than you can have in the game normally, and then that second first-person camera where it really looks like they're hucking and pulling up on the front end. You just can't get the bike to look like that with the first-person camera. No matter how much you try to huck the bike, it's not going to look like that, It's like the second first-person camera, you have more hucking ability, you have more seat bouncing and pulling ability because you can do that with still keeping everything in your vision, where it feels like on the first-person camera, when you try to really huck the bike hard, like on a triple in out of a corner, or you're trying to really pull up on the bike, it's almost like the bike gets out of your view in a sense. It like makes it feel like the bike's just raising up way too far, and you're not really getting that like leaning your head up towards the front fender when you're hucking, You're not getting that bird's eye view where you can still look at the landing in front of you. It seems like that second first-person camera just gives you so much more of a vision of what you're looking at, you know what I mean? So anyways, I just want to make this video. This is kind of what I've developed myself into here on MX bikes. We're running higher than 110 field of view, and the second first-person camera, for me personally, that seems to be I can get the most out of the bike when I'm running that. I can see the most. I can maneuver the bike the best with that, but that's just me personally, right? But yeah, so either way, definitely let me know down in the comments how many of you guys use the first-person camera or the second first-person camera. I'll be interested to take a look at that. But yeah, I mean, like I say, I've ran this second first-person camera before, like literally years ago, but that was before I realized you could raise your field of view higher than the maximum inside of the game. So now that I've done that in combination with that second second first-person camera, it's giving it a whole different effect than it ever was before. You understand what I'm saying? So that's kind of why, I never really ran this second first-person camera before, and I'm kind of running it now because it's a whole different animal with those super high field of views. So either way, man, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.